Welcome students to another lecture in this series. Let us continue with the further concepts that we have related to marginal costing and profit planning in your syllabus. Okay, today we are about to study the methods of break-even analysis. The meaning and concept of this break-even analysis we have studied in the previous lecture. Here we will study the methods uh, through which this analysis can be performed. Here we have two methods: algebraic calculations and graphic presentation. Okay. We'll study both of them one by one. I hope at this point you people remember the concept of a break-even analysis, which talks about that your profit, there is no profit no loss situation, okay, where your cost is equals to the sales. Let us see the first method, algebraic method, break-even point. It is the volume of output you know very well, or sales, at which the total cost is equal to sales. It is a point of no profit or no loss. I just informed you. This is the minimum point of production at which the total cost is required, and after this point, profit begins. The fundamental formula for calculating break-even point in three categories. Let us see. If we need to calculate break-even point in units, then in that case, we can use the first formula, this one. That is the total fixed cost upon the contribution per unit. So you will be calculated it in units. But if you need to calculate it in rupees, then you need to take contribution in a money amount instead of per unit into sales. So total fixed cost upon contribution into sales. Further, there is one more formula here, because sales upon contribution or contribution upon sales, you can say PV ratio, you can replace it and you can find it that way also. Let us see the data. Total fixed cost is 12,000, selling price is rupees 12 per unit, variable cost is rupees 9 per unit. So contribution can be easily found out. That is your selling price minus the variable cost, that is coming out as rupees 3 per unit. We can find out the PV ratio from here. We can see contribution upon the contribution upon your selling price into 100. So 3 upon 12 into 100 gives you 25%. Break-even point in units, we can calculate fixed cost upon the contribution per unit is 4,000 units. In rupees, we can find it out. Total cost, total fixed cost is 12,000, contribution is rupees 3 and sales is 12. So in that case, it would be 48,000 rupees. And if we need to find it out directly, that is also quite possible, because we have calculated PV ratio here at this point. So we can just put it up here and we are able to obtain the same amount, 48,000, as we have obtained through this formula. Okay. Then break-even point will be verified. We know that total cost is equals to fixed cost plus variable cost. So we can verify that also. Fixed cost is 12,000, variable cost is 4,000 units into rupees 9 per unit. So 4,000 units are being produced. So for that reason, your total cost is 48,000. So the sales value and the total cost at break-even point are exactly the same, the total cost as well as your sales. Now let us see further what additional calculations that we need to perform. In addition to the calculation of a break-even point, the above formula can also be used in making certain additional calculations, like calculation of profit at different sales volume, calculation of sales for desired profit, finding missing figures. Let us see these one by one. First of all, in the given formula, we are taking those same values. Total fixed cost 12,000, selling price rupees 12 per unit, variable cost 9 per unit. Let us see. Calculation of profit at different sales volume. What will be the profit when the sales are 60,000 or 1 lakh? So let us see. Contribution upon the sales, 25% remains the same. Then first, when sales contribution, when sales is 60,000, in that case, let us see the contribution. It would be 25% of 60,000, that is 15,000. So profit can be calculated as contribution minus the fixed cost, it is 3,000. But when sales is 1 lakh, in that case the contribution is rupees 25,000, and here the profit is 13,000. So we are able to see, if we are having higher sales, we are having higher profits. Second case, when the sales for desired profits, if we need to calculate, continuing the same figures, we'll calculate this also. what will be the amount of sales if it is desired to earn a profit of 6,000 or 15,000. Okay, sales for desired profit, this is the formula that we can use, fixed cost plus desired profit upon the PV ratio. We can see in both the cases it is different. For higher profit we need to make higher sales, then only we'll be able to earn that profit. Then at next point, we can calculate the missing figures, like break-even point is 30,000, profit is 1500, fixed cost is 6,000. So they're asking to calculate the variable cost. Let us begin. We can start with contribution. We know that contribution is equals to fixed cost plus the profit. We can find that out as 7,500. Now let us consider break-even point. We know the formula is fixed cost upon contribution into the sales. We are having break-even point 330,000, fixed cost 6,000, contribution we have calculated 7,500. From here we can find out the value of sales, that is 37,500. From here we can calculate the PV ratio now, contribution upon the sales, that is 7,500 upon 37,500 into 100, that is coming out as 20%. So variable cost is simple here, 100 minus the PV ratio, that is 80% of sales. We can find it out now, because we do have the sales figure and we are able to find out that the variable cost at break-even sales is 24,000, and variable cost at break-even sales, yeah, it's 24,000. The other ways also it can be find out. 30,000 minus the fixed cost, also it is 24,000, and by using the percentage that we have calculated, by the that way also it is coming out as 24,000. Let us see more examples. Sales, suppose if 4,000 units at the rate rupees 10. Break-even point 1500, fixed cost 3000. So we need to find out the variable cost and the profit. First of all, let us see the variable cost. For that, let us consider this formula, break-even point in units equals to fixed cost upon the contribution per unit. From here, we can put the values and find out the contribution per unit as rupees 2. From here, simply we can calculate the variable cost, selling price minus the contribution, that is rupees 8 per unit. Now they are asking to and from here we can calculate the contribution of sales at 4,000 units, that is rupees 8,000. Now next step, we need to calculate profit. So simply we are having the amount of contribution, we can subtract fixed cost from it and we can find out that the profit is rupees 5,000. Let us see more things, more examples. Fixed cost suppose is 8,000, profit earned is 2,000, break even sales is 40,000. So we need to find out the actual sales. From here we can have a look that contribution at break-even point is equal to fixed cost. We know that very well. Let us see. We can consider the formula of PV ratio, that is contribution upon the sales, and we are having the amount as 8,000 because fixed cost we are using. So 8,000 upon the sales, that is 40,000. So PV ratio is coming out as 20% at this level. Actual sales can be found out using this formula, fixed cost plus the profit upon the PV ratio, and the amount is coming out to be 50,000. Just need to remember the formulas and nothing much beyond that. Here in this one, selling price is given as rupees 150 per unit, variable cost is rupees 90 per unit, fixed cost is 6 lakh rupees total. So we need to find out the break-even point. I need to find out the selling price per unit if the break-even point is 12,000 units. Let us see what is the break-even point, then we can find out the selling price accordingly. We know the formula for break-even point, fixed cost upon the contribution per unit. So we can use that. We can find out contribution per unit by subtracting selling price and the variable cost, that is 60, and we divide it with fixed cost. We are able to find out that at the break-even point 10,000 units are being produced. So when 12,000 units are being produced, we can calculate the contribution simply. That is coming out as 50, and we know that very well that your contribution is equals to your selling price minus the variable price. So from there we can find out the selling price, that is rupees 140. Okay, so selling price of 140 when breakup point is 12,000 units. Okay, next we have another such question. Sales is given as rupees 2 lakh, variable cost is rupees 1,20,000, fixed cost is 30,000. We need to calculate break-even point and new break-even point if selling price is reduced by 10%, new break-even point if variable cost is increased by 10%, new break-even point if fixed cost increases by 10%. Then let us begin. We can start with PV ratio, that is the sales minus variable cost upon the sales. We can put the values and we can find out that PV ratio is 40%. we can calculate the break-even point now. That is your fixed cost upon the PV ratio, that is coming out as 75,000. Now they are asking you when the selling price is reduced by 10%, means your new sales will be somewhat 10% less. So 10% of 2 lakh subtracted from it, you are able to obtain the new sales, that is 1,80,000. Let us see the values. Next you will be able to find the new PV ratio, and we can put it here and we can find out the new break-even point. In the third case, we need to increase the variable cost by 10%, so we can find the 10% of 1,20,000 and add to it, and then we are able to find that your PV ratios increase, that is 34%, and we can find out the new break-even point. Last case, they are saying if fixed cost increases by 10%, the new fixed cost will be 33,000. PV ratio would remain unaffected because it is not having any effect on that, but the new break-even point can be calculated, that is 82,500. Now from this, find out the selling price per unit if the break-even point is to be brought down to 9,000 units. Variable cost per unit is 75, fixed expenses is 2,70,000, selling price per unit is rupees 100. We can use the formula and calculate the contribution per unit. So at present the contribution is rupees 25, that is 100 minus 75. So in order to bring your break-even point to 9,000, contribution should be brought to rupees 30. This means that the selling price should be increased by 5. So the new selling price would be 105. Cash break-even point. When break-even point is calculated only with those fixed costs which are payable in cash. So such a break-even point is called as cash break-even point. This means that depreciation and other non-cash fixed assets are excluded from fixed costs in computing the cash break-even point, and the formula that we can use for it is cash fixed costs upon the contribution per unit. Next, the next method, that is graphical method, will be carried over in the next video lecture. Till then, study well. If you have any doubts, please let me know. Thank you.